Staff was holding it up.
Kind of your show tonight, isn't it?
No, this is the mayor's show. All right, we'll call to order the May 13th Wood Village Council meeting. Councilor Minor, would you mind reading the land acknowledgement, please?
Sure. The Chinookan peoples, known as the Clackamas and Cascades, are the indigenous people of the land now inhabited by the city of Wood Village and other areas of the Columbia River. The village of Nochakli was located near Blue Lake Park. Ancestral life of these people included seasonal round of resource gathering and stewardship from the Wapato fields and fishing areas of the Columbia River to the cedar and huckleberry gathering areas of the High Cascades. Introduced disease from early settlers dramatically reduced the number of these people. They signed the Willamette Valley Treaty in 1855 with the United States and were forcibly removed to the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation. We thank the descendants of these tribes for being the original stewards and protectors of these lands since time immemorial. We also acknowledge the systemic policies of genocide, relocation, and the assimilation that still impact many indigenous Native American families today. We are honored by the collective work of the many Native nations, leaders, and families who are demonstrating resilience, resistance, revitalization, healing, and creativity. We are honored to be guests upon these lands.
Thank you. Now we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now we'll move to citizen comments on non-agenda items. Becky?
No citizen comments.
Awesome. Thank you. Now we will go ahead and read the Public Works Proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas public work professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of Wood Village. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public work professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of the government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings and other structures and facilities essentials for our citizens. And whereas, as it is the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the city of Wood Village to gain knowledge and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2025 marks the 65th annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Be it now resolved that I, our mayor, Jairo Campos, mayor of the city of Wood Village, do hereby designate the week of May 18th through the 24th of 2025 as the National Public Works Week. And then I also urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions that they make to protect our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mayor. My honor.
Yes, they do
And for
such great
public
work.
works employees.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. We'll go ahead and move to Public Safety Report.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilors, and Becky for this chair. Just have a few things to cover this month. As you'll note on the overview calls for service type page that you were hopefully given. We saw a slight increase in dispatch calls for service over this last month, but we also saw a large increase in self-initiated calls for service, notably in extra patrols, subject stops, and traffic stops. And I just want to point out this has been part of the ongoing focused effort in the city of Wood Village, specifically around traffic safety. And that's reflected in their report. We had 2 reported traffic crashes, which are on par with last month, or the previous month. There were 2 reported stolen vehicles. Looking at those, there wasn't really anything of note with those. You will note on the overview page that there is an increased report of theft, 25 last month as opposed to the 10 in the previous 30-day period. Looking into that, most of those, the majority were thefts from Fred Meyer and Walmart, some from Lowe's too. Nothing concerning though. I found one call in there that was of note that I wanted to talk about with you all. And on 416, there was a call at the Retriever towing lot off Sandy. The subject had broke in to try and get his vehicle out and tried to ram the gate. So it caused a little bit of public alarm down there. He was taken into custody though. So there's no public safety risk. And just on a personal note, really enjoyed the Easter extravaganza with everybody. I thought the way it was set up was great, and it was great for us to have some positive interactions with our community and really get some good conversations and just a good engagement overall. So thank you. It was great. Unless you have some questions for me.
Questions by the council?
Oh, none here.
Chief, thank you so much for your
Thank you,
service
Mayor.
and all you guys do
Absolutely.
for us.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to review of bills paid. Any questions on what's on the front sheet or what's in the staff report? All right, we'll cruise right along to consent calendar.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
I second that.
First and second, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right, consent calendar approve. All right, we'll move on to Grand Ron meeting recap with our finance director.
Mayor, just real quick, next week for Public Works Week on the 22nd, so Thursday, we will be doing a luncheon to celebrate Public Works. It will be 12 to 1:30, and you are all welcome.
Here?
And
Here.
Becky,
Okay.
Yep,
in the
Yep.
council chambers.
depending on weather. So we'll either have it in here or out back, and it'll be a collective of Wood Village, Fairview, Troutdale, and Rockwood.
Good.
So
And what's that time again?
12 to 1:30
12 to 1:30.
on the
Okay, thank you.
22nd.
Very appropriate.
I will suggest if you guys are able to come, it's a great opportunity to enjoy a free meal, but also interact with our great public works staff. So
What time was that again?
12 to 1:30.
Okay, thank you.
thank you for the reminder.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I don't have the option of offering you free food. But I can do the recap for the meeting with the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde. You have a staff report included that Greg wrote. So the agenda was we did a tour of the Museum Center and Cultural Center. That also, then we went and did a tour of their newly constructed wellness center. You can see that in the bottom right. And then we did lunch with the tribal council, those who were able to make it. The big takeaways from the meeting were the Grand Ronde is doing an update to the economic development analysis that they had performed previously when they weren't considering a casino. That report will be shared once they've completed it, and they believe that's going to happen sometime this fall. We did mention that we might have a need for a temporary fire station and kind of broached the idea. They were open to finding out more details. They didn't think it would interfere with any of their applications that they've got pending for the use on that property. So that was good. And so Greg's going to follow up with them and give them some more details once we get the IGA in place with Gresham and have a path forward on what we're actually doing for fire. So those conversations will be followed up on. And at the luncheon, we mentioned we were still waiting on the list of significant plants. And so staff sent that over so that we could get that into planning for our new wetland park. So
We're still waiting, but they did reach out.
Yeah.
And we gave them all the information of what we have currently on the planting list.
So that's all of the report that I had. I didn't know if you guys were all there except for Councilor Clark who couldn't make it. Any other comments or questions, things for follow-up for staff?
I thought it was just a great opportunity. It was my first time going out there, but to meet with the staff and, you know, kind of understand in a deeper aspect of their culture and a lot of interesting things that I learned that day. So.
Yeah, they're easy to get along with. They're friendly people,
Yeah.
and I saw people that I'd seen. Oh, you know, you would have recognized them too, and they recognized me. Who knew? Who knew? Still look the same as I did, what, 20 years ago? I don't know.
I'm sure you do.
Thanks. Thanks.
I know it wasn't the conversation wasn't, I guess, what we were expecting, but I know Greg had some conversation with staff. And so I know there's a pending future, probably reconvening of councils probably later in the fall. I am very optimistic on the approach of using their property for a temporary concept that we will be needing in the near future. So that just alleviates a huge stress for what we potentially could be looking forward into. So that's great to hear that they're also willing to explore those options with us. So.
You know, it's just always, every time I come back from one of these meetings, it's nice to know that we have a partnership with the Grand Ronde Confederated Tribes, because if we're going to do business with somebody, I'd just soon do business with the Confederated Tribes, the Grand Ronde, in discussing that property up there.
That's all I have for the recap.
Awesome. Thank you.
B- on that mistake.
B-? Okay. Well, you know, my eldest daughter is learning that if you don't get an immediate no, you can work towards a yes. So.
That's right.
All right, we'll move on to Resolution 11-2025 Investment Policy Annual Review.
There wasn't a slideshow, was there?
You know, I was told by Greg to keep things short and not wander too far off of the script that he left for me. So I'm going to try sticking to that.
You may get a B+ here pretty quick.
It's rising, it's climbing, We're good.
You got to give stretch goals for people.
Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor and councilors, for you tonight is consideration of a readoption of the investment policy. So this was adopted originally for the first time at your May 14th, 2024 council meeting. There's a 23-page document which we had submitted to the Oregon State Treasury, incorporated a lot of best practices, safeguards for investment, brought transparency to what was give direction for staff. And so that was adopted. It's been in place for a year tomorrow. One of the provisions of that statute is that it needs to come back in front of the council on an annual basis for renewal. So we as staff, and just to kind of recap, these were the general purposes. We wanted to focus on preserving financial flexibility with our liquidity. Wanted to make sure that we didn't incur any losses on the public funds while still trying to capture a market rate of return. And again, we don't want, neither Greg nor I want to spend time in jail. I'm assuming none of you do is either. So that was really kind of the reasons why we had put that together. So the policy that was presented last year got a full review from the Oregon Short-Term Fund Board. They issued some recommendations. We adopted 24 of the 25 recommendations. We did then reached out to staff on the process for a renewal. They said minor or immaterial changes don't require it to go back in front of their board. The policy that we're asking you to adopt tonight has no changes from the one that you adopted last year. It's just something that we need to do to stay current. I will give you kind of an update on what we've done with the investment policy since we adopted it. And the answer is nothing. We've been monitoring rates, and this graph here shows the kind of what the rates were when we adopted this last year on the 13th. And the rates have essentially, we're down 0.03 of a percentage point from where that was. So one of the ideas with this was we wanted to lock in and continue the investment returns we were getting if there was going to be a rate drop. But we're also balancing that with, Greg and I have had a number of conversations about this of, we didn't really know what was happening with fire and what was going to be needed in terms of one-time funding, or if we're gonna have to start dipping into our fund balances to pay for increased operating costs. And so we've made the decision to preserve as much liquidity and cash as we can, rather than putting in that investment vehicle, balancing that with also, as long as the rates stay stable and don't take a nosedive, we're comfortable with that. So we're hoping that rates stay up for the next few months until we get something, our plan for how fire is going to roll out known, so that then we have a little more confidence in the investments that we would be making. So that's kind of the big update from this. Bringing this report in front of you tonight, we wanted to keep you updated on what we've done with the policy, which is nothing, but we've had a number of conversations and tried to balance those various needs that we talked about or that were needed, that were explained in the policy. So with that, I'll be happy to entertain any questions or give you any feedback.
Aren't we concerned about the rates going down though?
You know,
I
it's,
mean, from
it's
what
hard.
I've heard, it's been kind of a little rocky in some aspects.
It's something, you know, a month ago, the world was ending, and then this last week, everything was great.
Right, yeah,
So,
that sums it up.
I think that, you know, kind of what Greg and I talked about is, seems like the eventual goal is to get both inflation and interest rates back down under 3%. Is kind of what the stated goal is. How long that takes for them to get there. And that's assuming that your fiscal and monetary policy aren't working against each other. And so we're monitoring it, but we're not overly concerned until we start to see a sustained drop in that.
You know, and also just to, because I know that it's still in savings accounts, I think you're getting 5% or
Yeah.
drop.
Yes, no, yes, it's still, it's just, I'm just thinking about the market.
Yeah,
yeah.
Not really, as an institution, but the market itself where we're putting.
Yeah, and I think the wise thing here that Seth said is that preserve the liquidity we have right now until we know what it's going to cost us to move forward with our goal of a fire district. And so I think that's kind of you got to straddle that a little bit. And so I think we got to do some of that.
And we were fortunate in that position where when we were having those conversations, we had the most amount of liquidity of any of the three partners. And so we were able to help. That gave us a little more of a voice in how these things were going to roll out.
And I hope you can influence those other two partners to keep some cash.
Well, if I get my grade up to an A, I might be.
Well, there's extra credit.
Well, he's working on extra credit. So.
Well, he hasn't turned it in yet,
No,
so
he hasn't,
that's the
so-
problem.
It's an incentive for him. Do better.
You gotta turn in your work, Seth.
Greg has mentioned a number of times how he now has tenure, and that's a goal that we should all work towards. Tenure as city manager.
Thanks, Seth, for
Yeah.
Any other questions by the council? Okay.
All right, I move to approve resolution 11-2025, adopting the City of Wood Villages investment policy.
I'll second that.
First and second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right.
All
Good
right.
job, Seth. We'll move on to resolution 12-2025, Gresham Fire 1-year extension.
No, that's the wrong one. We've already covered that. Sorry. I like the Grand Ron so much, I keep trying to. talk about. So let me a couple of these. Sorry, I'm not quite as young and tech savvy as Greg is. So this is where we really feel his absence. I hope he's enjoying his fruity drink wherever he is. All right. So good evening, Mayor and Council. In front of you tonight is a resolution extending an IGA with Gresham for 1 year. It's really hard to find good fire pictures, and so this is going to be a pretty bare bones presentation where it's just the facts, and we're still working on getting this finalized. So keep that in mind. So just brief background. At the 3 city council meeting last month, all 3 councils gave direction to their staff to pursue the Clackamas One offer that was on the table, but also be open to a temporary extension with Gresham if it made sense for all parties. And there was some benefit to us in giving Clackamas a longer lead time rather than trying to make it happen in 83 days. Gresham then, after that meeting, asked us for a 1-year renewal of the IGA. And part of that discussion is to have more discussion on the future of fire in East County and how that's provided. So the proposal that they have is a 1-year extension of the current IGA. Our costs are increasing from $567,000 this year to $800,000 next year, which is still a large increase, but is less than what their last best offer was. And again, this allows for a longer transition time for finding that permanent long-term solution for fire service and funding in East County. City of Fairview approved this IGA last week at their council meeting. Troutdale had a public safety working group last night that had the presentation. And while they don't have to formally adopt it as we or have a resolution to allow the city manager to sign it, they are having a public hearing tonight to consider a police and fire service fee, making that ordinance change so that they can, and it's explicitly mentioned, increase costs for fire in that ordinance. So we're all taking steps jointly towards that. Upon approval tonight, the city manager of Gresham has the authority to sign a 1-year extension on the IGA. And so if we approve, we'll circulate it for signatures and should hopefully have something wrapped up by the end of the week, provided Gresham can sign it by that time. So that's the presentation. The proposal's in the packet. There aren't a lot of changes from what we currently have. Any questions?
Questions from the council?
Again, I want to make just one comment on this one, is that this also, I believe it works best for all 4 cities to have a chance to continue the discussion about the fire district. And it keeps Gresham as a partner at this point. So I think it's where we needed to be.
Yeah, it'll give them time to catch up to some of the discussions that we've had with Fairview and Troutdale on what we really need. The work that you all have done on both, not just fire, but also on medical.
Yeah, this is just one. This is important as there's many individuals or parties involved in this, and their continuing effort to kind of, I don't want to say this delicately, but kind of make it seem that we're the deciding factor behind this, but we're truly not. We're a result of decisions made by others. We are very hopeful that we can continue true, meaningful conversation to end up with a regional solution, because that's always, I think that's been our approach for a long time now, and that's our final goal. So as Mayor Miner mentioned, this does provide all parties involved in this at least an additional, I would say, 6 months of conversation, and hopefully we can all come to the table and have transparent, meaningful conversation on this. So
Yeah, and just as an update, we did get all the comments back from our partners on the AP Triton study, and we got all the final comments to them, and we're waiting for a response back on when we can expect that report.
Good, good. Thank you for that update.
Yes.
I'll
I can make a motion. That's all right.
Go ahead.
I move to approve Resolution 12-2025, providing for a one-year extension of the Gresham Fire and Emergency Medical Services contract with a new expiration date of June 30th, 2026.
A second?
It's been first and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That is a stress reliever.
It is.
We have an additional year, so we still have a lot of work ahead of us. Staff has more, but it is a regional approach to a regional problem. So, all right, we'll move on to Resolution 13-2025, building fee update request.
Mr. Mayor, Council, and I also want you to know that I made a very generous offer to everyone on staff that if someone wanted to take one of these for a presentation while Greg was out, I was more than happy to share the podium, but they all gave me a big vote of confidence that they really just want to hear from me tonight. So.
Yeah.
They're trying to build your confidence.
Yeah, no, they
Take no glory.
team of support.
They knew you were going to get that
You're on
B at
level
first,
with
so they were
A.
just trying to get you there.
I'm confident you'll get that A by the end.
And you have a presentation.
Make him proud, make him proud.
So the final resolution that we have for you tonight is update of the building fees. So we last adopted a resolution on this in September of 2024. The impetus for that adoption was the change that was coming, the mandate that was coming down from the state for electronic filing that was needed to be live January 1st, 2025. As you have heard in prior updates, the state system, we spent a lot of time doing training and building that, working with them, and got far enough into the process and realized that it was not a great solution financially in terms of the options we had for the third-party provider and the impact to citizens with that system. So Becky did a lot of work and to find a very cost-effective, much more user-friendly system. And we got an exception from the state to allow us to implement that. And that implementation, I believe, is going live the first week of June, scheduled.
June 9th is current schedule for go live.
So this is coming to you tonight because there's two reasons. One is Gresham has adopted a 4-year implementation or 4-year escalation for their fees that indexes every July 1st. So every July 1st, they increase the hourly rate that they do and their pricing, and especially with the hourly rate, because we pass that through. When we get that charge that gets passed through, we need to keep up with that. And it's a good idea in general to index it for actual costs. And so their actual costs are reflective of what our actual cost would be. In most cases, we still keep lower minimums so that incentivizes people who are doing small projects to get them permitted and inspected so that they don't run into health or safety issues. We want to keep that bar set fairly low. So that's really the only deviation that we have from what Gresham has. So with the adoption of this resolution, the timeline would be that there would be a building official review. We would submit this to Oregon's building. I just blanked on what BCD means. Building Codes Division for review. And then there's a 60-day window for people to for citizens or concerned parties to make an appeal of the rates that are being submitted. So the effective date for this for us would be August 1st. The big changes again are all based off of the hourly rate. Gresham's rate increased from 166 per hour to 175. This rate really only applies in special cases, usually related to delays, when they feel like it's gone beyond the norm. but it's also the rate that they used to base a lot of their work on. And this is reflective of their personnel costs. So that's the major change. And as we were going through that state process last fall, there were a number of changes that we had to make to our rate schedule so that it would be in compliance with how they wanted to program it for everyone who was choosing to use that. So we made those changes, and that making those changes kind of deviated from how Gresham's methodology was working on some of these permits. And we try not to do that because it's easier to mimic the way that Gresham has their rate structure done so that we don't get caught with not bringing in enough revenue for the costs that were going out. And frankly, a lot of times people are talking to the inspector or talking, if they call Mary, who's our permit tech, or they're talking to the inspector, if the rate structure and the prices are the same, then there's not any confusion because people don't necessarily differentiate between the City of Gresham's inspector and our permit tech. So it really helps with communication and decrease confusion for folks that are usually, especially for smaller contractors or personal projects, not really familiar with how the fee structures work. So that's another added benefit. Overall, the revenue impact of this is about 6%. We did a comparison on what a typical new construction would look like, and the impact on price was about a 5% increase. And again, these are not ones that we came up with. These are ones that Gresham came up with, and we're kind of passing through as part of this process. So with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions on the presentation or what's in your packet.
Questions by the council? It's probably more of a comment. With the new extension of the fire contract, I remember it mentioned that it would no longer cover the fire marshal for inspections. This is obviously just on fees, but would there be an amendment and kind of how would that cost affect those fees?
So in terms of relating both building and fire, the building fees are what is charged to the person who's submitted the permit. And that number would not change. What did change in relation to fire is it used to be that the fees that Gresham collected from buildings, work that they were doing in Wood Village, was a credit to the amount that we owed them. So if our quarterly bill was $130,000 and they had $2,000 of fees that they generated from doing inspections, or the fire marshal was working in Wood Village, then our net bill would be $128,000. So it was kind of come as a credit. Under the new IGA, the 1-year extension, they keep those fees, and we still pay them the full rate. There's no more offset.
Those are for the fire inspections that they do routinely on the businesses. As far as the plan review and inspections they do for permits, starting July 1, they will start billing us those hours as they do currently for the building inspectors and plan reviewers. But those costs are passed along to the customer during the permitting process. Anything with fire life safety plan review has an additional percentage and comes with a certain amount of inspections for that. So kind of already collecting the money, just now we'll be paying them the hourly rate.
And would that be like an amendment to the contract or just?
It was already mentioned in the building IGA that we had adopted a couple of years ago now.
I was going to say 3 years ago.
So that was already included, but they hadn't billed us yet because our current
piece.
fire IGA did not permit that.
Yeah.
So July 1, that will change.
That will change.
That was, as Becky mentioned, it was an issue that was identified when we updated the building IGA, but we didn't want to change the language in the fire IGA at the time because we didn't want to reopen fire. So we said, we'll approve the building IGA with the idea that once the fire one comes up again, we will address this issue in both
Right.
IGAs.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution 13-2025, a resolution updating the building fee schedule and submitting to the state's building codes division.
What's second?
First and second, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Oh. Okay.
No, council, no, I don't have any council
I
comments.
said he got a name.
I saw.
What's his grade?
Did he get an A?
He said no, sorry.
Yeah.
You
First
know,
comment.
I think this is gonna take some review. You're close though. Stay with it.
Just want you to know, you're not the only grading authority that I am being subject to.
Yes.
Caroline told me on no uncertain terms that I needed to remember to mention and plug that cleanup day is going to be this Saturday.
That's right. Oh,
Yeah, and to give, she wanted to remind both me and council that was on the agenda said, and so I wrote it down here and put up some asterisks next to it to make sure I didn't forget.
You did good now. You can probably go over the hump.
I've got an A from her and
Okay.
that's,
that's what matters.
Tell me again what time that is. Is it 9?
9.
I
that
didn't know.
starts, I think volunteers.
Nine
It's 9 to noon.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think volunteers
9 to
must
10?
show up.
9 to noon.
Noon.
9 to noon.
Okey
And then
dokey.
opens at 9?
Is that,
It opens at 9, so I think volunteers somewhere around 8-ish.
Yeah.
where is that going to be?
It's going to be at the Grand Ron property, but off of 223rd instead of Wood Village Boulevard, because Fred Meyer's has that section kind of blocked off
Okay.
with their remodel stuff.
So enter off
Yeah,
223rd.
easier,
Yeah.
better.
And then I'll throw another plug in there. The Place fundraiser is this Thursday, 6 PM at the Fairview Food Plaza. Free food. Come enjoy some fun.
Free food.
Free food. Nice. There is a cause.
Hey, there is a cost. See,
Okay.
free food.
It's free. food.
I know.
I'm sorry, what time?
6 PM.
Oh, dude, can't go.
If nothing else for the good of the order, then we won't stay any longer and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Great.
There you go.
Shortest
Ask
meeting we've
you
ever had.
your
I think.
opinion about something.
I'm